Awooga, and welcome to the Manchester United agenda on this glorious Friday evening. It's 8 o'clock. It's been a beautiful day. Monday, what are you wearing? And surely it's a bit too hot to be in a cloak.
In a cloak?
Yeah,
this is very light material. This is like African, African like attire. So it's very light because obviously in that part of the world it's very hot. So this is a very light material. I've worn it all day. They say t-shirt, whatever, but this is less lighter than a t-shirt. So I'm looking very cool at the moment. I think I'm looking like someone who lives out in the tropics and just arrived into the UK today. That's why I'm wearing a beret.
Well, it's very stylish. And Stefan, you've gone for the more traditional short sleeves.
Yes. Yeah. Short sleeves and shorts. Can't beat it.
Lovely. Now, Stefan, you're up in Northern Ireland, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Have you seen what's been going on in Dublin this week with the portal to New York?
Yeah, somebody got arrested after like 2 hours of it being open. I don't know how that
happened. They were flashing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It's possibly one of the most stupid ideas I've ever seen. Monday, do you know about this?
I wanted to ask, what's the portal to New York? What's all that about?
Go on, Stefan.
Yeah, so basically in the middle of Dublin, they've built like it's like a big portal. It's like a circle type structure, and it's got a big screen on it, and it's basically a live feed of Dublin on one side and New York on the other side. So when people are like walking past it, they can see people in New York walking the other way, and they can like wave at each other or do whatever. And of course, people have like took the opportunity to flash and stuff.
Oh no!
Get arrested. Yeah,
on the Irish side.
Go well.
Irish
yeah,
it probably happened on the New York side as well. To be fair, at this point, but yeah,
it's possibly one of the most stupid ideas I've ever seen. I mean, can you imagine in your high street if there was like a live link to a city where no one knows you? You're going to do some of the most ridiculous things ever. And speaking of ridiculous things, should we see what our little gremlins in the chat are saying?
I like that. Let's go.
Thank you. Right, first off, we've got Andrew. And Andrew, we're going to get onto the leaks towards the end of the show. They're obviously going to be one of the main parts, but I forgot to do anything about Arsenal yesterday. So we've got to do that. But I'm very interested. You think it's Casemiro that the leaks are coming from? I think, Stefan, we only have 2 Brazilians in the squad, don't we? Like, there's no youth players or anything?
I don't think so. I mean, it's not much of a case. It's 50. It's literally 50-50. Like, that's the top and bottom of it. It's not like it's going to be guess who or anything. We're not going to have to whittle it down. We've got 2 Brazilian players, so...
I 100% think it's Anthony.
Yeah,
100%.
Like 100%.
But I just don't think the captain of Brazil would act in this way. And Casemiro's a good lad, but we'll get onto it later. Steph is here early, and she's saying that she thought that we were talking about Alan Brazil from TalkSport. Andrew, maybe he's been on the bevies, but he's dropped the excuses. You overpaid, pampered losers. Steph agrees. We want professional footballers, not celebrities that play football occasionally. Mm-hmm. I don't know, actually. I think some celebrities are probably better than the centre-backs that we're going to pop out tomorrow. We've already got 6 likes. And Bourne McMahon, have I said that right? Like, McCone? How do you say that, Stefan?
McMahon? I think it's McMahon. Yeah.
Right. Well, he says there's a demon that is eating United. And Andrew is enjoying the summer. Look, Simon Warner's here. He's loving the sunny day as well. And look, Andrew's telling us how to say someone else's name. McMahon.
Yeah, as in Steve McMahon. Yeah, it's the same spelling.
Or I know that name. Who's Steve McMahon?
Used to play for Liverpool and Everton.
Right, that's right.
Midfielder.
Okay. All right. Now, just before we get to the leaks and stuff, I'll show you what the show is this evening. We got a little bit of tactical stuff. We got some things on the injuries. We're going to talk about the Arsenal game, what we want from it. Then we've got the Brazilian leaks, and I might riff some bonus content if we run out of time. But I don't think we will. and I've already told Stefan what the bonus content is. It's only a monkey that's getting surprised. But I'm afraid that after the disaster of Important Dogs in History a couple of weeks ago, where Amonde wasn't that impressed, I'm still extremely bitter about it. So we're not doing it this week.
It's usually on a Thursday anyway, so you're day late.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about Arsenal first. Right. Arsenal use 2 football principles better than anyone I've ever seen in the Premier League. And this is something that I think that we should look out for tomorrow. The first, do you know this mantra? This is something that I got told a lot, which is high and wide ahead of the ball, narrow and compact behind.
No, but it does make a lot of sense for Arsenal for the way they're playing their game at the moment.
All right. And wingers keeping you in jail. Is this a concept you're familiar with?
Locking you up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Stefan, what did you call it, Stefan? Minimum width or something?
Yeah. As you know, there's like a million different names for these things floating about. Basically just, as we said, they're wingers keeping you in jail, dictating the width of the pitch, making it harder to play through them, playing wide whenever they've got the ball. It all kind of feeds into that stuff.
Yeah, but minimum width, I don't like that sort of language.
No.
I prefer keeping you in la carcel is what we used to call it. So we're going to start off with a principle from my coaching in 2009, so up to date and relevant, which is that the way we used to play is stretch the pitch with as few people as possible, right, and support with as many as possible. The point behind this, Amonde, is the idea is it allows you to control the games because you're always going to be supported in front and behind in midfield by the players around you. So you've got a good core in the middle of the park, and with just 1 or 2 players stretching the width, you've got space to work out wide, and also you've got players between and behind the lines. So it's a really effective and decent way. I'm going to say that for once it wasn't me misclicking. If you have had something deleted, Hydro, you're going to have to talk to Steph. I think she's the only mod here, but sometimes YouTube just messes about and doesn't work. But yeah, so I mean, Amonde, you're happy with this as a sort of as a football principle, stretching with as few as possible?
Yeah, we've seen Arsenal do that really well. I mean, we talked about this on the eye test, didn't we? A while ago, you showed me a graphic of Arsenal and how they sort of in the opposition's half, how they're sort of dominating and just suffocating teams, and it's hard for them to get out. And they're even doing it against the better teams as well. Really unfortunate to go out against Bayern Munich. I thought if they had a bit more guts, they could have gone through. But their football principles are really good, and we'll be seeing them live in our face this weekend. But we've only lost 1 in 16 at home to Arsenal. But it's kind of looking ominous that we might lose, and we have to see what happens later. But by stretching the game like this, it's really important. I think Stefan mentioned earlier about their wide men being important, really important. And you've got Martinelli and you've got Saka on the other side. And these guys retain the ball pretty well. They link up play really well. I mean, and they can drive at you as well. So they've got really good attributes. I think I'll say this again. I think Saka is is just effective, very effective what he does, and he's got a good manager who backs him. I think if Saka went to Villa or any other club, I don't know if he'd get the sort of.
He's been the best player in the Premier League this year. Yeah, I know you have this thing about Saka.
Yeah, because of the system.
He's brilliant.
He's brilliant. I'll give him that. I'm saying he's very effective, but I don't think he's unstoppable. I just think the system that he plays in helps him out. And this is what you're saying here about getting locked up one-on-one in situations. Or
who's a better right winger than Anthony in the anyone? Who's a better right winger than Saka in the world?
In my opinion, I think Dembele from Barcelona is better than him.
The PSG, the guy that's PSG, Dembele, ambulance.
I think he's better than Saka. He's got more to his game. I think if he played in the right system and the right management and right discipline, I think he'd be more effective.
He's played some of the top clubs in the world, Amonde, and hasn't put it together. He's only done it in Germany.
Well, he's done it in Barcelona as well.
Not what really? In one of
I
the, wasn't
just
that one
think-
of the worst
I
teams
just think,
they've ever had?
let me just say this. I think Dembele's got more to his game than Saka. Saka's effective and disciplined, and he's got the right attitude. He's a proper professional. But I think if you get the best out of Dembele, he would be more effective, in my opinion, and more of a threat than Saka. But it's
Right,
no
anyone else?
that at the moment in world football, left-footed guys, Salah. I think Salah's more effective than him, more dangerous. Who else is there? Phil Foden, not really the similar positions. That doesn't play there that often, but I think Phil Foden's all-round got a more complete player than him. So I just think my point is, I'm saying here, yes, we're bigging him up about the system, everything else, but I do think he's not unstoppable. I've seen him against Barcelona, against Bayern Munich the other day, against the Moroccan guy. He marked him out the game pretty well. He'd done all right against him.
Mazza something.
Yeah. Done all right. Done all right. So,
right, Stefan, interrupt him on day. Like,
Interrupt. Okay.
What you Saka, Dembele? That's obviously ridiculous. But where do you put Saka in terms of forward, like right-sided forwards in the world?
I mean, I think he's right up there. Like, genuinely, I think he's right up there. And just when I was sitting listening there, like, something came into the back of my mind as well. Something, maybe if we just want to talk about what we're going to see as well on Sunday as well, it could be a couple of weeks ago. Do you remember you had a graphic up and it was forward passes?
Final third entries.
Yeah, we were looking at Bruno to Garnacho, but the top two in that there were Odegaard to Saka and Saka to Odegaard. You know, he's so involved in what Arsenal actually do as a team, and in terms of his effectiveness, it is genuinely outstanding what he's managed to do this season. And maybe in a different system, you would see maybe more to his game. But when he's that effective doing what he does, why would you want to change it as well at the same time?
No, my point is, I
know?
agree. He's very effective, but when you look at it deep down, I think some other players got more to their game. He's just very effective and very professional, and he studies the system, gets it right, does everything he's told, and he's very effective in the way. I'm not disrespecting him. I'm just saying, if we get tune out Dembele and all these other guys, I think they would be better, more of a threat.
This is what you used to say about Kane as well, isn't it? You don't like
no. There's certain players I'm a fan of because they're very effective. But I've realized we talked about this yesterday about mentality. These guys are proper pros because they've got the right mentality to persist and get it right. Where they see players more talented go by the wayside because they're not good. Reece Nelson was way ahead of Saka's levels going up through the thing, but he hasn't made it. Maybe he hasn't got the right mentality. Saka certainly does, and I have to give him credit for that. But I just think if you can get if you can get a more talented player, I think there's more talented players out there, and get tune out them. My point is, that's you'd be more of a threat. Look at Leroy Sané, for example. I mean, this guy, if you really knuckle down, he's got everything about him.
Yeah,
he's got more attributes, I think, than Saka. But Saka is a professional, and that's what gets him. So I'm trying to balance that.
I understand. I mean, I think when you look at the three boys that missed the penalties for England, Sancho, Rashford, and Saka, it's Saka that has really sort of got over it and moved on with his career. Like with Sancho and Rashford, I feel that they've never kind of got over that, certainly at international level. But we must look at the comments. Steph is saying an elasticated midfield because it stretches. We've got Ed Mayhem in the house who's picking everyone up. Arsenal have got a good defensive record this season, but don't be fooled. They can be got at. And we were pretty unlucky against Arsenal, to be honest. At the they don't play at Highbury. Where do they play?
Emirates.
All right. Saka does everything well, according to Andrew. And look, it's Miss Emma Kay. I hope you're doing well, Emma.
Long time.
And everyone's saying hello to each other. Amonde, just because he's not flashy doesn't mean he isn't good. Dembele couldn't lace his boots.
Couldn't wear his jock's jack, as Larry Jones would say to Rocky Marciano.
I think you're not alone here in disagreeing with Amonde. I think this is one of his worst ever takes. Saka has not been the best player in the Premier League. Arsenal fans will tell you that. Rice, Odegaard, Saliba, to name a few, at the club have been better. I disagree about Odegaard. Rice, possibly. Saliba, possibly. But Saka's my player of the year. Salah and Bernardo Silva ahead of him. I think that's reasonable, isn't it? Like, it's not outrageous to say Salah is better. Kind of agree with Amonde. Saka is very good, but he still looks like there's something missing there, that he's not the finished product. And he's such a little crier.
Can I just stop there? Big up to Emma, because she knows her stuff, all right? If people listen to my words, all right, and not pick out little segments of what I'm saying, I'm picking him up. No, it's true. I'm picking him up. And Emma's actually listened to me, listened to the words that come out of my mouth, like Jackie Chan, Rush Hour, and Chris Tucker. But this is my point. When it was showtime, clutch time against Bayern Munich, you know, did Saka, the best player this season, according to Bath Time, did he step up? Did he deliver? When they had to beat Aston Villa, does Saka deliver? I haven't seen that. And I'm not, you're asking a lot for him, for a player who's very good in a good system. But to say he's of the level of...
When's Dembele delivered?
Have you not seen what he's done?
At what club? At Borussia Dortmund?
He's two-footed, he's quicker, faster, more effective. It's just
no, I'm not arguing about any of that. I'm asking when he's delivered.
Has he won the league? He done well at Dortmund. He went to Barcelona. He won the league with Barcelona. He was very effective for Barcelona. And now he's in Paris. And look at international level as well. He's a World Cup winner.
Oh, yeah, but he didn't deliver in the World Cup. No, I think he is. He is. He won the World Cup.
2018. Did he win it in 2018?
Yeah, he won it. He won it in the World Cup.
So that's what I'm saying. You're asking when people deliver. I'm talking about being clutch. But the point was, I'm saying Saka, when it's mattered against Bayern Munich, or when your so-called best player, the star boy, I'm looking at him saying, what's going on? And there's nothing was going on because he's playing in a system where he can be locked down at a higher level. That's when you really test it. So before we talk about players being, great and all that kind of thing, let them deliver at the top level. This is why I say about Harry Kane, because I know you mentioned Harry Kane earlier. I saw Harry Kane win a Golden Boot in 2018 with little tap-ins and penalties. Doesn't make him a great player. I must admit, I see he's got a lot to his game. Even the other day I was watching him think, okay, you're good. But he's not, to me, there's been better number 9s than him in the last 10, 15 years.
Who would you say currently is a better number 9 than Harry Kane?
Probably Haaland and Lewandowski.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you think that City would be more dangerous with Lewandowski, Haaland or Kane?
It's a good question. Kane's impressed me. He has impressed me. But I probably think Haaland. I'd probably still say Haaland.
I'd go for Kane, perfectly summarised by the Keane comments about a League Two player out of the penalty box. I think Harry Kane gives you so much quality all over the pitch.
Okay, you're talking about the team that done a treble in his first season.
I know. I know.
Can we move on because you're going to lose?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we've got 14 likes. Thank you very much, everyone. Saka, Odegaard, and Havertz, biggest goal threats for Sunday. God.
Yeah.
Oh.
Scary.
Dembele is shit.
24
goals, 24 assists, 127 games.
Andrew, I'll give you that.
What were you waiting for, though, Monday? Were you about to do
it? For the day for Andrew to come on the show. I love Andrew so much. Yeah. I respect him. I respect his comments. I want him to come on the show.
Well, he's agreeing with you. He thinks Haaland over Kane as well. I would rather put Saka against players like Vinny Jr. Vinny Jr. is going to take the game on his own. Saka doesn't do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking. All right. So more of a sort of moments player. Anyway, this is what I wanted to show you. I've forgotten what it's about. This is this is what sort of Arsenal do. So when we talk about stretching the pitch with as few as possible, by compressing play on one side, they're only using one player to stretch the pitch. And it also plays into things like the counter press and other defensive structures. But I really enjoy it. I think it's I'm very impressed with Arsenal. Saka, 47 goals in 169 games with 35 assists. That's pretty impressive, Amondo.
I'm not disputing that. I'm talking about, what do you say? Systems wins games.
Exactly. And this is a system here, Amondo. This is where no, it's not. All right. This is, I was going to say misspeak there. This is what Arsenal like to do, and what teams like to do is that they like to pin you in a very, very small space, okay? Because it makes it hard to get out of that space. So if you look at the 11 and the 7, what they're doing is they're deciding the width of the pitch, and your entire team basically has to play within that blue circle. And that means that when balls break, when things get kicked long, it's all the players on the outside always have 4 or 5 yards advantage on you. So the smaller you compress that pitch you're playing in, the harder it is to get out of defense, and that means that you can sustain attacks, which is something that United really struggle with. I feel we just sort of turn into, we're a transitional team, Stefan, aren't we?
Yeah. I think a lot of our final third play just comes down to that one pass. If it comes off, then maybe we get a goal. If it doesn't, then it just breaks down and we find ourselves in the back foot again. We don't sustain pressure. We don't keep teams within their own 18-yard box. We don't have shot after shot, moving it wide and stuff. It's basically just all or nothing ball is what we're trying to play. if that makes sense. Like if Bruno's pass doesn't come off, it does feel like we're not going to score. Like from a break or from an attack, just in general, we are still playing on the transition. It's not sustained. We're not holding on to it in a lot of senses, and I think it would benefit us if we did it, because the few occasions we have done it this year, we tend to find goals, and maybe you can find individual matches or halves where perhaps we've done that kind of well and we've scored a few goals, but just like the rest of the season, no consistency in it, and we just haven't been able to replicate it every week. And Arsenal are pretty much the masters of doing it at this point as well.
Yeah, I agree. I also think when you look at the positions of the wingers there, I've said this for quite a lot of time. Like Garnacho is a quick player over 5-10 yards or something like that, but his running power over a big distance is something that has got to be improved because he's such a young boy. And I feel the same about Anthony, where he's quite quick off the mark, but pretty much everything he does is just rubbish. And so the more distance you give him, the more rubbish he's going to be on the ball. And I would love to see United playing like this, up the pitch, camped in, instead of, as you say, Bruno just twatting it up the pitch and Rashford, running off down that incline at the end of Old Trafford. But anyway, right. So winger jail. I don't know, Stefan. What's this called in proper technical language? Do you know?
I mean, there's several names for it. The one that I seem banded about at the minute is playing with minimum width. So you want to make the pitch the least. You want to have the least amount of width on the pitch as what's needed in your situation. So it's kind of what everything feeds into there. The smaller the game is played in, the more effective you can be. It obviously helps your counter press and stuff as well, and it gets you more men around the ball for turnovers. That you might have different options. Should you win the ball as well?
Yeah, most training that you do, and I believe that this happens at Premier League level as well, is SSGs, small-sided games, where you have you operate in a tiny area, and what you're sort of doing as a midfielder is it's about angles, where you can receive the ball, how you can lay it off, and the whole point is that you're trying to put the other team in jail, right? Like you're trying to keep them in that small-sided area so that they can't get out. They are stuck there, and that's what allows you to sustain attacks where they just can't get out. And Crystal Palace were doing this to us like the other week, and it was absolutely disgusting. But what Arsenal do, just forgive this, is you'll see that the wingers are really, really narrow, and this is for two reasons, right? The first reason is that it makes that space that you're playing in even smaller. And Arsenal are all big, strong boys. They're all going to win their duels and things. Like Havertz, 6'4", Rice, 6'2". Like they're all big, strong guys. But the other thing that it allows that I find really interesting is that when Amonde was talking about, say, Dembele or Vinny Jr. And Saka, Saka doesn't find himself one-on-one against opponents like this. If you see the blue lines, those are sort of movements off the ball. When Saka gets the ball, he's always got Ben White or Odegaard moving for him. So they do this really interesting thing where they're so narrow and compact until one of the wingers gets the ball, and then they widen the pitch and go for the throw. And I think it's a really interesting sort of, it's a principle that everyone knows, but the execution of it is very intriguing to me. Monday, is this the sort of thing you're talking about, where if you put Dembele or any of these other players in this system, they would get the same sort of results as a Saka?
Well, when we look at Saka, if I look at his goals, for example, he's able to cut off onto his stronger side foot. You know he's going to do it because there's, like you said, there's runners for him. Ben White, Odegaard in and around him, making runs or spreading balls, and so he's going to get shots off on target. You see it all the time. It's like, how do you stop this guy? I think, as you sort of highlight here with the diagram, you can see that he's got players in and around him because they've got control of the game, they've got control in the final third, and they're popping teams around, and then teams are going to have to go with runners, and then that allows Saka the showtime. I called it showtime situations where it's like he knows it's time to go. He can either lay onto a runner, Ben White, overlapping or underlapping. Odegaard, give it a 1-2 because this guy likes to play little threaded balls. And this is how he can create space, even though it might be in camped areas, you know. And he's very, one thing about Saka is very strong and wiry. So you don't see him getting pushed off the ball too easily. And he shields the ball brilliantly. He's so... I remember years ago, when he used to get cramped when he first started playing, I used to watch him and think, okay, he looks all right. He's really strong. And he came up against Man United, and that's when I realised how strong he was, because we were really struggling to deal with him for that man that looks quite small. So Saka gets himself in situations, and when it's time to go, you might call it like trigger press time or show time or whatever. There's key moments in the game where you know it's on, it's show time.
Yeah.
When he scored against us a couple of seasons ago, when he was up against Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw, their England teammates, was trying to hold him off, trying to contain him, and then he got in the situation where he was up against Eriksen, and it was show time. He pushed past Eriksen and shot and scored a really good goal. So I think it's very effective what he does, but it's like the system's helping him at the moment. You started the question, I asked about Dembele. Would he be able to do a similar thing? I think yes, he probably could in this great Arsenal side. I call him great because I just think they're fantastic at the moment, the way they're dealing with things. It's just they don't have the clutch kind of showtime
experience in it.
That comes with experience, yeah, for sure.
So Stefan, just before we move on to the comments, when I look at this, right, and I see that Arsenal have this great sort of philosophy where they don't like 1v1s like in attack. They want players supporting, stretch with as few as possible, support with as many as possible. Do you think, like, we've seen a slight uptick in Antony's form as he's had more men around him, and we've sort of, I think Garnacho has been off the boil for a while now as he's had less support. Would our wingers be better in this kind of system where there are people closer to them, or should they actually just be twisting their man up because they're Manchester United wingers? What are your feelings?
No, I would agree with that. I think if we had more support, you'll probably see more joy from the wide players and get better. More of an uptick in form from Garnacho, maybe from Antony or from Rashford. And the more I've looked at this graph, it's kind of had me thinking, whenever you watch Arsenal play, be it goals that they've scored or chances that they've had, so much of it's almost repetition. How many times you find Saka in the exact same spots in the penalty box, getting his shots off, and that's the signs of a really effective system, that they can do it week in, week out, many times a match, force the same chances, get their best players, their Sakas, their Martinellis, onto their strong foot, getting shots off in and goal. I just don't see that from us. And I think that even with our own wingers, maybe you look at Rashford, would be someone who could excel in a system like that if he was getting consistent opportunities on his right foot in that sort of left channel, shooting in at the goal. That maybe could be quite effective for us. But I
We
think
saw that,
we would
didn't
have.
we, with
Yeah,
Martial and Shaw? Like that's when he
yeah.
seemed to get the best out of Rashford, when he had a lot of
If you
men
look at him
around him.
last year, yeah. If you look at him last year when he had Weghorst or Martial who would give him the ball in those situations, and he had Shaw in the overlap, and maybe Bruno would come over or Ericsson would be an option, kind of deep. He looked a lot more involved and he got a lot more goals. You know, the wide players look isolated this year. You're maybe seeing more of Anthony getting players around him on the right hand side. That's probably more with Dallo being the fullback on that side at the minute. But again, I feel like if we have more options for those wide players, you probably get more joy because they're not just shoehorned into doing the one thing, cutting inside, trying to shoot. They might be able to play it to an overlapping fullback or to a striker who's coming over to support them as well. So yeah, I mean, I would be a fan of us trying to do this.
All right, let's look at some comments, shall we? See what these little horrors have been up to. Right, DK Wilson, Vinny, a moments player. Does that mean he gets 90 plus minutes attention, but if you blink 3 times, he has a hat trick? And I'm on deck for me, like when we talk about like moments and things like that, I've always thought it's a little bit sort of unfair on the players because what it is it's more about sort of just moments where the players are showing their individual quality, like producing a wonderful volley or producing that pass or something like that. Like the top players are able to influence the game in a single moment. That's what it means to me, as sort of a moments player. Because like Stefan, I think a lot of people think that a moments player is someone who just produces occasionally instead of it meaning that they have that quality to explode.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what they're saying. Is like someone who would be anonymous for 89 minutes and then just pop up, score a winning goal, and then that could be it. But I don't know. I've never really liked the term moments player anyway.
Well,
right.
there's a tune called Magic Moments, and
Quality Street.
Yeah, magic moments. So when you talk about players like that, I think especially with Arsenal, they've got systems churning out week in, week out, beating teams with this system, playing really well. And it takes years for someone to counteract that and say, look, how are we going to learn a style to beat this or to counter it? And no one's there quite yet. The City are just a bit above them. But where we're saying about moment players, you need, when you're playing that system and things aren't working, Bayern Munich, for example, you need someone to be a moment player, as if to say, grab the game by the scruff of its neck and do something beyond that. Be proactive and
find a way
to sort of make it happen, you know. And that's what Vinny did the other day. He was a threat. That's why I think he's a special player. And I don't understand why they want Mbappe when they got Vinny there, for example. But that's what I mean. Mark Hughes, for example, I remember against Oldham, we couldn't break them down. We semi-final of the FA Cup. We were really struggling. He came out with a moment, with a lovely volley. And then the same against Crystal Palace in the final. He came out with a brace of goals, a moment. Something different. Do you understand what I'm saying? Against the norm. Yeah. And that's what a special player is like. Someone to say, right, I'll have this. It's on. And
is this Bruno? Like Bruno's like pulled a lot of like irons out of the fire with with moments.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say out of our team, not saying he's at level of some of his other guys, but he's capable, more than capable of doing that, and saves us a lot of times. People just forget. There's been many games, even this season, where he scored a scorcher or a goal.
And that Burnley volley from Johnny Evans, extraordinary goal. Like, all right, well, let's see what Steph Griffiths has got to say. United don't make tackles, never mind fouls. Emma is saying, how are we actually doing on the pitch? I haven't kept up with us properly in the last 5 games or so. Just carry that on, Emma. Just enjoy your Sunday. Have a couple of drinks, read a book, spend time with your loved ones. Don't you just love abbreviations? I see what she's done there. Very clever. Simon is saying, surely on the weekend we can't have back-to-back defeats against London clubs. The Palace match was embarrassing. Well, we're going to get to what we think about what's going to happen in the game next. How many of our fit players will be playing against Arsenal? Will Rashford start or come off the bench? We got 16 likes, and Andrew is out. He's tapping out on this one. Do some jokes. I'm not a performing monkey, Andrew. And we've got Kate Cadet. Hello, Kate. How are you? It's nice to see you in this parish. We don't normally get the pleasure of your company here. Arsenal are going to completely dismantle us, aren't they? It's so upsetting. Well, we'll have a look. We'll have a look. I still might call myself an ex-Man United fan on my Twitter bio. Right. Amondin Doris, thanks. Not a term I'm familiar with. In the US, it's often said he's clutch about that type of player. Yeah. And Kate, just to finish off, I still can't work out what system United is supposed to be playing. Effing terrible. We'll get onto that when we do the leaks, Cake. Right. First of all, let's address Simon's question about the injuries. So, Stefan, this is coming from Insider United 1 on Twitter, who the general consensus is that this guy is actually someone who works at the football club, and Manchester United have been trying to shut him down for ages. Everything he says turns out to be true. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, there was talk at one time it was Jadon Sancho, but I don't think that's the case.
No. All right. So Mount is injured again,
Yes.
which is disappointing. Luke Shaw has also had an injury setback, I've seen. Evans is at 80%. Fernandes is a risk. And Martinez, he wants to play, but it's very unlikely. Amonde, Evans and Fernandes, would you start them?
No. I wouldn't. You got to think about the FA Cup final. There's nothing to prove. I know Ten Hag says we want to win every game, but we're at the stage of the season where, look, it's futile, as the Borgs would say. Futile, meaning it's pointless. It's pointless. Just play.
That's Star Trek, isn't it? I always think you're talking about a Swedish player, but I've learned this, the Borg are from Star Trek.
Yes, that's true.
Nice.
But yeah, me personally, obviously, it's down to the manager at the end of the day and the medical staff to sort of assess what's going on. But if this is legit and we haven't got Varane, Martinez, Maguire, Mount, that's a big loss. Evans would probably have to play,
surely.
Yeah, because he's the only real centre back, and centre backs can usually stroll through games if they talk a lot and communicate. And Fernandes, I think we should just obviously Fernandes was replaced by Mount the other day, so who's going to fill his boots? It's really looking really poor for us this week.
Well, let's move. That's a good jumping off point, which is I think that Amrabat has got to play.
Yeah.
Like, does anyone disagree with that, Stefan? Like, who do you want to see in the midfield?
I'm just. I can't believe I've just heard you say that you think Amrabat has to play, to be honest. But I mean, if we're looking at choices, we are very, very limited in what we got. I feel like it's probably just going to be something similar to what we've seen against Palace, to be honest. Manu will start, Eriksen will start, probably Amrabat. I feel like that's pretty nailed on at this point. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to justify risking players. We've got Arsenal Sunday, we have Newcastle Wednesday, we got Brighton Sunday after that, and then we've got the FA Cup final. So we've got 3 matches in 7 days. There's nothing to play for in the league. I can't justify playing players and rushing them back from injury and then missing out on the only thing we have left to play for this season, to be honest.
Yeah,
I know it's a heavy week, isn't it? On Monday we got match reaction on Wednesday, preview on Tuesday. I also think that I said Amrabat has to start. I'm not playing Amrabat in midfield. What I would do is I would play Casemiro, Eriksen, and Mainu, and I think that's an all right midfield. I don't think that's the worst in the world. I would play Amrabat at left back, and I would play Dalot alongside Johnny Evans.
And who at right back? Oh, Wan-Bissaka.
Wan-Bissaka.
I thought he was injured as well.
Well, it could be anything. Anything has happened, but
it's really makeshift, isn't it? It was really like down to the bare bones having to do that. Dalot, I don't think he's ever played centre back, but he's quite a tall guy, quite a big guy. And
good in the air.
I think he could adapt in that position. But yeah, we're really struggling out there. Where's Lindelof?
Injured.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I mean, like, but the thing is, right, Stefan, we can't play Casemiro at centre back anymore, can we?
I would like to think not. I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm like, so we just stick Sir Jim at centre back. He's 6'5". He did the London Marathon the other
Exactly.
week.
He's got good
the
engine.
height. Do we just put Jim in? Do do we just go for it? Or
Aggressive.
Front foot defending. I don't know. I feel like it is going to be Casemiro again, though. I feel like he's not going to change it too much. But it's whether or not Evans is even fit. You know, we could end up with Dalot and Casemiro centre back. Like, that's a real possibility for this one.
I just like. I mean, I got told off a little bit, Stefan, by Daughter and a Monday for saying that I didn't blame it completely on Casemiro last week against Palace because he needs players around him and things. Like, he was left completely exposed out there as if he was in front of the portal in Dublin. But he literally, I remember years ago, Arsenal had, right, Monday, was it Cole, Pires and Henry on their left-hand side?
Who? Oh, Ashley Cole, yeah.
Ashley Cole, Pires and Henry.
That's right.
And they used to queue up against Jamie Carragher. He was their favourite player to play against. And all three of them used to make a beeline to do him. And I think we're going to see that again if Casemiro's at centre-half. Like, I mean, they will be rubbing their hands in glee if he starts. But I will do the comments. And whilst I'm doing the comments, I want you to think about what's a good result for us? What do we want to see? And give me a reasonable score prediction. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start off with Andrew saying Scott and Casemiro at centre-back. McTominay, I don't think is ready to play, but I do not be surprised to see Bruno and McTominay play, and we know what the manager's like and we know what they're like. Have Martinez on the bench for the final if necessary. Not worth risking him before that match. Still have 3 months to recover before the new season starts. He has a Copa America, though. So straight after the Cup final, he's going to Argentina to presumably play in some dead rubbers there. And Casemiro isn't in the Brazil squad for their friendlies coming up. Resistance's future was a Dalek phrase.
Exterminate.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't know that they were such wordsmiths, that they were that loquacious. We got 18 likes. Oh, God. 4-1 or 4-2 from Simon. Kate, bath time. If they're at the point where Amrabat has to play, then it's time to call it a day, mate. This team is dead. I agree. I completely agree. But we've got to find solutions. Like, as much as I'd hate to see City win the title, we can't roll over against Arsenal. It's unacceptable. We've got to try and find a way. We need at least one win before the Cup final. We need at least one centre-back somewhere. Tough match against Newcastle. Should get a positive result against Brighton. Maybe Brighton's the game to get it in. Darkrow, that is ridiculous. Emma, I know nothing about our players anymore, but a draw would be nice, like a 0-0. And Simon is saying resistance is futile as a Borg phrase. Let's not start the Star Trek Doctor Who war, please, as I know very little about either. Amonde, you're a man who knows a lot about Star Trek. What's a good result for us?
Warp speed out of there as soon as they kick off. Just get out there and play at warp speed, or
just all the players run off the pitch, kick it and run away.
Beam out and take out Ten Hag and Casemiro and bring in Brian Robson from the past. Go back in time, bring back Brian Robson
and Sam Allardyce.
bring Sam Allardyce. All right, look, so score predictions. Look, guys, I'm saying this: football's a funny old game, as Jimmy Hill, rest in peace, would say. It's a funny game of two halves. But I've got a feeling we can get a positive result. That could be a draw or a win at Old Trafford. Like I said earlier in the show, they've only won one in 16. That was under Arteta at Old Trafford, which is good for us. I think we do turn it up. We're going to have to, because the fans at Old Trafford will not allow us to get a whooping like we did at Crystal Palace. They really need to stand up and represent. I think that Arsenal are under pressure. They have to keep slugging on. I think they don't Fulham play Man City early before we play.
It's 12:30.
Yeah, so imagine Fulham get a good result. If say Man City win, Arsenal should be, oh God, here we go again. We've got to get another win, because that's how it's been. It's not in their hands. So I think it depends. If Fulham win or damage City by getting a draw, Arsenal I think will turn it up and really, go for us. Otherwise, I think we can get a draw, or maybe a win, because of the way Arsenal play. There's one team who's their kryptonite. I think it's Man United. We always have tight games against them. We always seem to manage to sort of open them up through our transitions. That's when Stefan was saying there's been a few times when our transitions have worked. I think they would work against Arsenal. They're quite open. If we could look at Eriksen, with someone like Eriksen in the 3-1 at Old Trafford, I think it was last season. We broke down the goals, and we really. The game was narrow in a tight area. We won the ball, and in 2-3 passes, we would break in on goal, and we scored a couple of goals similar to that. So I think it's quite possible, in theory, to beat this side. But the only issue I would say is like you said, about the weakness we have is the injuries and the personnel, and whether they can consistently go out there, absorb it, because we're going to have to absorb a lot of pressure for a long period of time. There's going to be a game plan to double up on certain players, wide men, to make sure they don't cut inside and cause us damage. But I think we are capable, the way we play our football, of springing a little break on them, opening them up. And when they play, look, you've seen them, their centre backs are sort of not hugged on the halfway line. They push into the opposition half quite deep, to preserve the ball, keep it turning over. If we can get in behind them, and we've got a pacey guy like Garnacho or someone, or even Haaland, time for him to step up. I think we can.
If we had Haaland.
Well, not Haaland, Haaland.
Can you explain this?
It would be like the Klingons versus the Tribbles. I don't know who the Tribbles. Klingons are massive. They're warlords. And the Tribbles must be really weak. I don't know. I can't think who the Tribbles are in Star Trek. But I think we can get a good positive result. And I think a good result for us will be a draw. That would be a massive result. Not only that, that would dent Arsenal's title challenge. And we could say, like we said, we knocked Liverpool out of the FA Cup. And I've heard fans say, since we knocked them out of the FA Cup, they've gone downhill. We could say we dented Arsenal's title campaign, and that could be something, a selling point, to sort of say Ten Hag's had a good season.
Right, brilliant, Amonde. All right, Stefan, the one thing that gives me hope about this game is I remember watching Arsenal absolutely bottle last season a 2-0 lead at Liverpool away, where they didn't know how to manage the occasion and manage themselves. Do we have a chance?
It's like you said, it's a funny game, because as much as what Arsenal have to play for, we have not got much to play for in this match, really. We want to turn up and have a decent performance. We don't want to roll over at home. We want to turn up and at least try to get something positive out of the game. And I think it will depend on injuries, who's available, whatnot. One alternative I would have would be if Casemiro was centre back. That would concern me. We see them jumping in against Palace. He'd be up against Kai Havertz. Havertz is very good at peeling off centre backs, wins a lot of fouls and stuff. That there could all feed into it. There'll be a million different battles across the pitch, and it depends how we deal with it.
Will we win any?
That's a good question. I don't know if I got an answer for that one that everyone's going to be happy with, but maybe not. I just think if we turn up, try to hit them on the transition, that's probably the best chance we got. They're very good at snuffing out counter-attacks in their own right as well with their tactics. They make it very hard to get out of our own half. We have the pace to do it. It's just whether or not we can pull it off on the day. But I'm not expecting a lot going into this one. I mean, if I had to predict, I think
you have to predict.
Yeah, I think we're probably going to lose this one, but maybe not. I don't think we're going to get battered. I'd say maybe 1-1 or a 2-1 loss or something like that. I think it might be close, and I do think we'll score. To be fair, I might live to regret that, but that's what I'm feeling at the minute.
I'm getting 2-2, boys. Like I think that we've seen a pretty makeshift team without Bruno go to Anfield and hold out there. Only City from the top 6 have beaten us at home this season. That we faced Spurs, we beat Villa pretty handedly. McTominay, I think we beat Chelsea, didn't we? Did we beat them 2-1, 2-0 or something? I think, I don't know. It's if there's a game where the players can decide the manager's fate, though, it's this one, and that's my big concern. But let's see what Gremlins are saying. Kate Cadet is saying that there's no pace in midfield, no pace in defence. Well, let's just play low then. Andrew, right, he's got a score prediction of 2-1 Arsenal. Emma, we have to bother them mentally. Just keep talking shit and harassing them. I don't know, Emma, if that's the way to get a result against Arsenal, but I hope it is. How can we trust this team to be organised and compact and hard to beat when they've been as open as Cat Slater's legs all season?
Oh,
shout
God.
Shout out to Cat Slater.
Bars.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Do you like that, Amondo? Yeah.
Yeah. I've watched EastEnders for years, but I remember Cat.
I never liked EastEnders. I watched it when I think there was a bloke in it from Scotland called Trevor, who was like a serial killer or something, and I liked it then. But
there's a line though, that Cat Slater, she said something. I can't remember. Someone in the comments know. She said, "I'm not a normal slag. I'm a total slag." Someone let me know in the comments what it was because it's so funny. I've watched it in our WhatsApp group. That comes out. The little clip comes out. I'm a total. Yeah, I'm a total SLAG. Funny tell.
All right, 3-1 to Arsenal is DK Wilson. Simon is not giving us a score. I thought he said 1-0. Cake Deck, we don't have a chance. Look, Andrew's brother has shown up. We got the Williams sisters in tonight, and for anyone that's interested, a Tribble is a Star Trek furry.
Yes, it's from the original series. There was they overtook the Enterprise. These little fuzzy balls, all cute and fairy, But yeah, I know who they are now. Yeah, I remember now. Good shout.
If there was a footballer that was what are they called? Tribbles.
Yeah.
Tribble. Who would be one?
Probably Sammy Lee.
Okay, nice up to date reference.
He's round. He bounces on the ground. Sammy Lee. You're too young there, part-time.
Can anyone remember when Cat Slater confronted a group of lads staring at her and said, "Why don't you all come and have a go?" I can't believe it was on television.
Oh, God.
I like that one. Right, it's time for the Brazil leaks. This is absolutely incredible. All right. So Diogo Magri of a publication called Premier League Brazil or PL Brazil has unleashed a series of leaks. All of them are negative about coaches, medical staff, and in particular Ten Hag. This guy, the journalist who's written it, is a real journalist. You see his face. He's got a track record. He works for proper companies. And it is incredibly clear that this is a player or maybe more than one player feeding direct information to him. So we're going to start off with what this player has said. And he said that first season was fine. Ten Hag was a decent guy. He wasn't abrupt. He had a very conciliatory stance, and the players were enjoying the vibes when they arrived. They liked it. But after winning the cup and a decent league finish, he's become more and more tyrannical as time has come on. All right, Amonde, anything you want to say about this?
Facts is this is exactly what happens. You can, it's like writing a book about it. This is what happened in the first season. Yeah, he brought his style. We had a few lows early on, turned it around, went unbeaten, ended up third in the league. The Ronaldo saga was real Hollywood stuff, and he showed his mettle. And at the end of the season, everyone was like, "Okay, this guy is all right. It was a good pick." So it's now we're getting to the crutch of it all. Players are getting too tired about things. That's so whack. So all this story, I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep my mouth shut, but I'm observing and I'm taking mental notes to attack once this is all over.
Well, I mean, personally, for me, Amonde and Stefan, I think that this is fairly normal. A coach comes in, has to prove himself. When he's got the proof, it like empowers him in order to sort of double down on his standards and things, because you've seen it's led to success. Like this seems to me to be fairly standard stuff.
For real.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree. I mean, he's got vindication. He's proved himself coming in, winning the trophy. So, yeah, he's obviously going to go a little bit trying to impose his ways somewhere. Like, that's pretty standard. I think most coaches would probably do that.
It's kind of like a president when they get the second term. They've got like that mandate in order to get a bit more extreme with their policies. Not overtly extreme. Right, let's start off with man management, Amonde. So I'm going to be completely honest here. I looked at this in Portuguese. I translated it to English. I also translated it to Spanish, and I've made some corrections to the text to put it more in line with what I think the sentiment is.
Okay. So could be lost in translation.
Exactly.
We speak both languages, so we are really, really flattered to have you on the show.
Thank you, Amonde. Pleasure to be here. All right. So the way that Ten Hag deals with personal situations at Manchester United is not liked by the club's senior players. There is also an opinion in the locker room that Ten Hag does not have enough experience to manage a club the size of United. And an example of this is even in episodes in which the punishment is fair, and the attitude, and what has happened, the players they don't like. So if something has happened, everyone agrees, and the punishment is fair. There's a lack of consistency. They've seen the same players committing indiscipline to the same degree as Sancho and not being condemned to the same level by the manager. Okay, so it's about what they're saying here is that he just doesn't seem to have consistency or the personality to manage size of the club. I'm going to go to Stefan first and let Amonde stew before he comes in. And then I'm going to have to look at the comments as well. I forgot. Come on, hit me, Stefan. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, whenever I was reading into these earlier, one thing that did come up like right to mind was obviously, like it says there, about Sancho having more of a serious condemnation. We haven't really had too many public fallout, I don't think. Obviously, like we've had Ronaldo and he was gone. We've had Sancho and he's gone, but everything else does seem to have happened behind closed doors for the most part. I think maybe Ten Hag himself would probably feel more let down by Sancho, and considering that he really went out of his way to give him time off last season to try and mend that bridge, to try, get his head back into the game and stuff. And then it only really was 6 months or so later that obviously the whole incident happened with Sancho. Yeah, look, I think we've had a dressing room full of players who have been rubbed up the wrong way by a lot of managers, and this isn't the first time we've seen stories like this come out. There might be real issues with his man management, but I do also think that maybe within the squad itself, there's also player attitude issues as well. We've always kind of had that.
Well, I mean,
suspicion.
Stefan, you say that, right? And one thing that I've always wondered about with Ten Hag is if you're Casemiro or Varane, that treatment of Ronaldo, a guy who's given you half your trophy room, that doesn't go away. Like when you see what you did to Ronaldo and things like that, that leads to resentment, and that leads to what if that's me. I've always thought that the treatment of Ronaldo is going to be what is going to lead to the end of Ten Hag, because he was a legend of the game, and there were players who grew up with him, played with him, and I hated what he did to Ronaldo. I thought it was disgraceful. I
mean, you can't argue with that. If I'm positive, if Varane or Casemiro were asked who's the best player of all time, they would say Ronaldo, or that they would thank him or like know personally that he is responsible for a lot of the success they've had in their career. And that probably would breed a level of resentment, if there's a guy who was maybe a big part of them actually joining the club in the first place.
Yeah.
I know Varane joined slightly before Ronaldo, but Casemiro joined the summer afterwards. So maybe that has factored into it as well. It didn't seem to really cause issues last season, in terms of our on-pitch stuff. But it's interesting that these stories are now coming out at this point when things are going wrong on the pitch. And I feel like that's always a natural kind of deflection we get in the game. You will get players trying to deflect and trying to putting it on the manager, for certain things, when things aren't going right on the pitch. So I don't think it's as simple of an issue as just it's either Ten Hag's fault completely or the players completely. It's always somewhere in the middle.
All right. Amundo, before we get to you and your big rant, I'm going to do the comments, if that's okay. Oh, sexy. Right. Subviz is saying smells like an Anthony leak. It certainly does, and it doesn't smell nice. This doesn't seem all too bad to begin with. Agreed, Emma. Players shouldn't go to training, just work from home in a back garden of their mansions by Zoom calls. All right, Andrew, not a single one of our players are smart enough to come out with all of this. Well, yeah, because the bits in quotation marks, Andrew, are pretty much direct quotes from the player. And obviously a journalist has made this into a narrative and as readable as possible. So there is a degree of separation from the truth. And there's a further degree because me and Google have translated it. Ten Hag gave Sancho 3 months off so he could work on himself. Too much narrative for a player. Yeah. Different punishments depend on the players. If you don't act like a child, then you're not going to get treated like a child. But if you do, that's your own doing. Yep. 100%, Emma. But it also works the other way around. If you treat people like children, you can't be surprised when they act like children. All right. Players need a team building course somewhere near Belfast, perhaps. I've never seen a pro locker room where everyone gets treated the same.
Yep.
That's true. Ten Hag has suffered the second season syndrome. Chelsea managers are likely to just survive one season syndrome. No way Anthony came up with bold egg as his best insult. Can make it an almost judicial level argument against Eve. Not buying it. This is something that Amrabat would produce. Fergie treated Cantona differently, but he backed it up and knew when to retire Eric. That is. Ronaldo acted like a little bee. He could barely run, didn't want to be a team player, and had booted his ass out way before. He also lost a child, and Ten Hag doubted it, which is just disgraceful. Good news, everyone. Lucky Singh's here, and he can run 90 minutes. So that's always good to know. All right, I'm on deck. What are you thinking?
Obviously, this is kind of new to me this tonight. I'm only hearing the news just now, but reading the statements, everything else, I'm thinking, okay, in any kind of line of work, when you're not performing, you always blame the manager. You always say, when they walk out of the room, you put a finger up or shake your fist, in a way. And I see it all the time. Where I work, we work with vulnerable people, and they're always looking for weaknesses. Because they don't want to they project their issues. They want to find a weakness in you. So we have to be strong as a staff team to stop anyone making allegations or attacking us directly or indirectly. It always happens. And I think you have to be consistent like that. What I'm looking at here, there's one of two players. We said it's 50-50. It's either Casemiro or Anthony, if it's true. One of these players have been leaking to the press. And I can understand for both of them. Casemiro's come as one of the best DMs in world football. His reputation stinks right now because he's playing in the Premier League and not looking even the best player in the team. He looks terrible, and his stock has gone down. So if he's asked, "What's wrong with you?" You're not, like you said, he's not even in the Brazilian squad. at the moment.
Yeah.
So he might be really upset about that because he was the captain. And how shameful must that feel that your form's declined that much? So if someone puts you on the spot and asks you, what's going on, you're going to say, it's not me. I'm going to project, it's the manager. Did you know that he's doing A, B, and C? It's got nothing to do with me. I'm trying to save my reputation here. That's Casemiro. On the other end, you got Anthony, big price tag, young guy coming up. You can see with Anthony, he's quite aggressive and he wants to win. He wants to do well, and he hasn't done well at this level. Maybe the move was too soon for him or whatever, but he hasn't performed as we expected him to. Big money signing as well. So when things aren't going his way. We've seen a few leaks recently about apparently he called the manager Barhead or something like that, or Egghead or something, So we've seen a few things, and maybe he's been asked the same question about your stock, Anthony. He's probably fighting to get into the Copa America. He's got Rafinha and other guys he's fighting with. He needs to be playing regular football. They might be asking what's going wrong with you? Why is Rafinha getting far in Champions League, fighting for a title in Spain, and you aren't even getting a game for certain points for Manchester United? It's not me, it's the manager. Do you see what I'm saying? This is, I feel, when people are weak, they project, and rather than take responsibility and be accountable, they project and say, it's not me, it's the manager. It's what footballers do all along.
Do you think that this is...
there's not enough substance in what they're saying. Oh, inconsistency. Because when really it's whack. When you're going to come out and say, "Oh, he's inconsistent," you're acting like a little baby. Oh, how come Johnny got 50p pocket money and you only gave me 25p? Well, you're younger and you don't deserve it. So do you see what I'm saying? It's like, what? Come with something better than that, because otherwise you're just a little bitch.
Right, I'm not coming at you, Amonde. I'm just reporting the news.
I'm talking about the players.
I know you are. I
know. really, I think I'm being honest here. That's really pathetic. I'm expecting better than that. To say
there is better than that.
And he's saying, "Oh well, how come this guy got treated this?" And looking for double standards. That shows weakness. Stand up, represent, and prove yourself on the pitch. You've had all season. You've had 2 seasons, both of you, to do it.
Right, but Amonde, you're addressing that to Anthony or to Casemiro. Yeah. Where the thing is, I think the key thing here is what he's saying is that everyone doesn't like it. Right, it's not just him; it's the squad, the club's senior players. Well, and you're a big fan, Amonde, of having rules. So, are you saying that the rules shouldn't be consistent in the dressing room based on age, seniority, performances?
Well, the rule sometimes when you lay down the law and everything, people are going to get upset and then they start bitching and spreading things, and you may have little cliques. So when they say everybody, it's just probably 2 or 3 Portuguese players going out for dinner and saying cussing in Portuguese and about it. Dalot gets on with it. He's Portuguese. He gets on with it. Yeah, he's Ronaldo's good friend. He's idol. He thinks Ronaldo is his idol as in professionalism. He don't heard anything from him. Why can't you be professional and act properly, appropriately? Write your book when you do seasons when you're retired. There's been a lot of fallouts coming out because of the discipline that's involved in the club with Ronaldo, with Sancho, for example. And I think it's a good thing because that way you wean out all the bad apples. When you've got a bowl of fruit and one of the fruit is rotting, all the other fruits end up rotting because they're all stuck together, all in the same bowl. So you have to remove the rotten fruit. And I think what we're seeing now with all these leaks and everything else, back the manager and removed people who are obviously flapping their lips behind the scenes and not performing on the pitch.
Can I do the next slide now?
I'm done.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Preparation. So there's also criticism about how he prepares for the matches. He holds tactical meetings before each game. They're usually extensive, from 30 to 40 minutes, and are repeated 3 or 4 times a week, a frequency that bothers and surprises the dressing room. More than one player has said he has had more lectures of this type with Ten Hag at United than in the rest of his career. Players do not assimilate, meaning they don't really sort of take it all in. It's a difficult and tiring method. So, Stefan, I'll start with you, and I will suggest to you that if someone like Varane or Casemiro or Johnny Evans, like the senior players at the club, are surprised by the frequency of this. Is this something to be concerned about, or is this just, people always whinge about about having to do work?
I mean, I feel like you got elements of both. Like, you want the players to be really prepared for this stuff, like, and know what they're going to be facing when they're coming into a match. I actually just wanted to try pull it up on my phone there, but I couldn't find it. It was a quote literally from Wednesday night about Ancelotti, who said the exact opposite, that coaches these days are very fond of 45-minute presentations before matches, and he thinks that it's just too much information. It's an overload and need to let the players go out there and express themselves more. I couldn't quite find the full quote there on that, unfortunately, but it's one of those, it's like that should be fairly basic, but I remember this being an issue under Louis van Gaal as well, where people weren't happy with these long, continuous, monotonous team talks and presentations. I'm not too sure if you included it, maybe in the next slide, but about the Everton match, was it
That's
in
the
there
last
at all?
slide. That's the last slide. That's the killer for me.
That's the killer, yeah. But it's one of those. It's, when if we're meant to be planning and being really methodical about how we're going to approach each match, there's always been a concern with me, and I've always kind of said this all season long. It's either the players are unable to take the manager's instructions and tactics in and implement them on the pitch, or the players don't want to take them in and implement them on the pitch. And from that point of view, it does look like they're suffering from an information overload. They're not assimilating the instructions properly, and it's a difficult and tiring method. I just don't know, because from what I've heard at City under Pep, we've seen interviews with Bernardo Silva. Yeah, they've said they've had light training during the weeks when they've got 3 matches in a week, and they mostly do videotape analysis and do the recovery stuff. I don't think it's too much of a stretch to expect the players to be able to sit down for 30 minutes and say, this is how Arsenal will play on Sunday. We play like this. We work on this shape whenever we're out of possession. We look to exploit these areas in transition. I don't think that's too much really to expect, but I would like to know what you guys think too.
Well, to be honest, for me, I don't like this style of learning, sort of sitting down and being told something. I like to do things more, and I would prefer to do this out on the training pitch. I'm perfectly fine with cones being told where to stand and reasons why and things. And the problem that I have with this is that you have to understand that people are sort of biased to learn in certain ways. Some people learn by doing, some people learn by listening, some people learn by watching and things. And I think that by just concentrating on one way of teaching people, which this basically is, teaching them what he wants them to do, I think that it might not be, it might, depending on who's in the squad and the sort of psychological profiles of who's in the squad, might not be the best way to do it. But at the same time, it's part of your contract, and it's part of being a football player, is doing video analysis, getting the tapes out, looking at where you went wrong, where you went right, and so on. But my big concern is that the players that player saying that he's had more types of this lecture in the rest of his career, because I'm fairly sure that'll be Casemiro or Varane or a top player from a top club, and that's what worries me. But before we hear from Monday, would you mind if I did the comments? Oh. Right. Emma and Andrew have been having a big chat about what I said about Ronaldo losing his baby. And to sum it up, Darius's recollection is pretty one-sided, which is very true. Okay. So that is essentially true. I've probably got it all wrong. Right. Football agents are supposed to be controlled by their clients, not the other way around. So Steph is basically saying this is that the agents are getting involved and things like that. Richard Herbert, I think, has made a good point, which is that why not one of the Portuguese-speaking players? Why not Lindelof? He speaks Portuguese. Could it be him leaking? Because of the shared language in Portugal and Brazil. Kate Cadet is saying, can I ask, why is it always our club where these leaks and stories and fallouts all seem to happen pretty much since Fergie retired? It's always been something. Market forces, Cake. We're the biggest club in England. We sell the most newspapers. Our stories are always the most valuable, so they'll always be repeated. Tyrone, I'm with Amonde. I am sick and tired of these players. They're on too much money, bad management of the club from top to bottom. And we've got a familiar face who we haven't seen for a while, and a very welcome face. It's Pranay. Big up yourself, Pranay. I hope everything's going very well. As I said, there are two sides to that story, despite Darius only presenting one of them. Yes, I did. And we've got my friend and yours, Teddy. Is that girl in the thumbnail the plumber bath time? I can't say that. Yes, I think you know what I was going to say. Okay, so Emma is saying, well, of course they're going to get his new tactics drilled into their heads, especially if you're terrible at it.
Exactly. Well done, Emma.
I think that is a good point. And now assimilation is a Borg phrase, definitely. Right. Is it?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Playing devil advocate, perhaps Ten Hag is giving the players far too much information. Perhaps he needs to keep it simple. I'm sure managers like Ancelotti don't overload players' brains with info. I agree with that completely. You want as short, clear, and simple instructions as possible. And look, Teddy is all the way in. There's an Anzo del Garda in Italy, and she's taken the time to come in and talk about my thumbnail. And last but not least, Casemiro and Varane's time at the club are coming to an end. Both signed based on their reputations. Not good for the team, just shirt sales as usual. All right, Amonde, what are you thinking about all of this?
Very positive on Ten Hag's part. I mean, at least he's putting the work in by doing these sessions. It says here extensive 40 minute assessments of what's to come and how to play their game. They should sit down and just take it in. Their concentration levels are poor. They're like little 5-year-olds who, want to go and play outside rather than sit there and listen to basic maths and basic philosophies of Ten Hag. I think it just presents Ten Hag as a guy who's actually put the work in and is putting the work in behind the scenes. It's just the fact that you said about treating players like children. I don't think this is what you should be doing. I'm happy to hear that. I'd be despairing if I heard Ten Hag had given up and wasn't bothering to do much, doing an Ancelotti sort of thing. Ancelotti manages good sides. Ancelotti's only good at managing top players because he got a way about him. That's what I think is very good, because people say, Ancelotti's got different style. He doesn't have one style. He just adapts to the players. He gets on with the players, gets the best out of them. He knows how to push their buttons. Here, we've got Ten Hag doing the efficient German style or the Dutch style of being efficient with his tactics and putting the work in, the hours in for Man United Football Club to try to get the best out of players. Things ain't working out, we're going to do an extra session. Remember when we lost against Brighton or Brentford? Things weren't working out, we went and did an extra session. This is the way it is. Discipline is so important. And most people need discipline the most are children and little spoiled brats. I'm not calling them children, but they're definitely spoiled brats, these players. 30-40 minutes is very good. I'm very happy to see that. I don't know if it's going to sort of slap me in my face with what's to come about Everton. I don't know what you got with that. But at the moment, I'm happy with Ten Hag for the first slide. This slide suggests that he's putting the work in and the players aren't. So I'm happy that he's put 30-40 minutes in. And he's not happy with the players who are moaning about it. In all my life, I've never had this much done. Well, that's why you suck as a player.
All right. Well, Steph is saying we've got 23 likes, and I think that there's like 25 people watching, which is pretty good. So thank you all very much. We got Agile Beast in. He should ask the players if we should skip these boring meetings, and if they say yes, they must perform better. Or if they are worse, the meetings will come back, but double the length. That's given too much agency to the players from Ten Hag. Oh, what a downer. It's George. If I was being paid hundreds of thousands of weeks, I think I could suffer a few hours of listening to a boring cue ball. Yeah, I agree. I know, not George Kyle. Amonde, you're getting some love from DK Wilson for your take. You're also getting it from Kate Cadet as well. And the slide about preparation, eerie like the Louis van Gaal era. I remember the leaks, which, Stefan, you talked about as well. Right. next slide. There's only 2 more. Bad atmosphere. Okay, essentially, this I'm a bit more with Monday on. A complaint about Erik ten Hag concerns the heavy, which in Portuguese is pesado, which is like, it means like bad vibes or something like that, like really sort of like claustrophobic environment that the manager creates after the team's defeats. It's not uncommon for him to act out exaggerated individual criticisms in the locker room, including against players who arrived at the club at the request of Ten Hag. This is 1 billion% Anthony, isn't it? It's got to be Anthony.
Has to be.
Exhaustive sessions, cancellation of days offs, and complaints about training have been persistent topics at United for a while. Right, Monday, I'm going to start with you here. What are you thinking here? Whinging?
Yeah, simple as that. Look, I've said my piece. This is whinging once again. And so basically, heavy climate. Oh, God, it's too much pressure. It's not good atmosphere and all this kind of thing. You're losing. You're Man United and things aren't going well. What do you expect it to be? Carnival? You want to bring samba to the training ground and, be playing your music and playing bongos and doing these stupid adverts like the Brazil team of the past,
They hit the post in that as well.
There you go. But it's just ridiculous what's coming out. This slide, I'm sure everyone would agree, has to be dashed in the bin because this is just someone moaning like a little bitch again.
The only thing I'd say about this, Monday, is that you've kind of got to, I think you win and you lose as a team. And I never think it's constructive to call out one particular person about a performance. Like that would be my main worry here. But I genuinely can't see past the fact that Anthony has got a bollocking off Ten Hag in front of everyone, and this is the result. That's my sort of feelings about this.
Agreed.
What do you think, Stefan?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think it was maybe it wasn't Palace, maybe it was the match before. Anthony was very angry at coming off the pitch. Maybe that's where this has come from. But I mean, this does scream like whinging. We've seen some ridiculous things over the years. This is kind of up there with the complaints under Ollie that the players had to drive home in the dark from training. And yeah, I mean, like I agree with what you're saying as well, Bath time. You're talking about individual players. We had Mourinho essentially blame every defeat for 2.5 years on Luke Shaw. It was his fault, regardless of what happened. So I don't think that's productive. I think this is just screams of a whinging type of attitude at the minute. But I think the bottom point is interesting. When we're talking a lot about the injuries, perhaps
that's next.
Exhaustive sessions and cancelling the days off could be contributing to that. But on the whole, I feel like it's hard to really side with the players too much in that slide, to be honest.
And I do quite like that you brought up that players were scared of the dark. Because can you imagine at like Ten Hag's interview, they're saying like, how can you get the best out of Rashford? Where do you see the team going? How are you going to handle like our players who just who can't drive home at night? Bunch of kids. All right. George is saying, if anything, the atmosphere isn't bad enough. Lucky Singh is saying that he's doing 2-hour sessions, so they can do 2-hour sessions as well. Oh, good one, George. Introduce waterboarding after losses, and we might see an improvement to performance. And then, George, you literally took an idea I had 3 months ago on this channel. This is about waterboarding. Are these United players weather forecasters? Actually, you've reminded me of something that I want to tell everyone. Tonight in the United Kingdom, there is an enormous solar flare. So at about 11 o'clock tonight, you have one of the best chances of seeing the Northern Lights that you will ever have in your lifetime. So take a little look. So have a little look before you go to bed, and you might see something fun. Ask Darius. Yeah, this is because, George, due to my obsession with tidiness, I used to implement waterboarding when I was at university for people that broke the rules. And it's really unpleasant. I've got to admit, I did it myself. It is horrible. You should, Monday, you didn't think it sounded that bad, did you? Just wet tea towel on your face and pour water on it.
Yeah, it's like was it Rambo when he was in Vietnam or wherever he was, Korea, and he was getting punished? Was it dripping water or something like that? Is that the punishment? They used to drip water.
Oh, like was that a Chinese water torture?
Yeah, or something about your soles of your feet where they used to slap.
That's tickle torture.
Is that tickle? I don't know. One of them anyway. It sounds like that, waterboarding. So I don't know. I think it'd be more funny than punishing and painful.
Right, waterboarding is where you have like a wet towel on your face and someone pours water on it and it simulates the feeling of drowning. It is honestly horrendous, and it is a brilliant punishment for people that mess up. Sorry?
You have to hold them down.
Yeah.
So you hold someone down, put a tea towel over their face, and pour
wet
water.
Tea towel.
Okay.
I
just don't think this doesn't sound.
Give it a go. Try it. Honestly, see how long.
You really think I'm going to be doing that?
I did it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. What did you do wrong? What did you do wrong to get that done to you? I think I spilled a yogurt and I was drunk and didn't clean it up. And then the next day they were all there, tea towel, all rubbing their hands, and it was. I didn't enjoy it. Right, Patrick's brought up my comment about Ronaldo again. I can't be bothered to go into it, but yes, I was very one-sided. Thing is, he's going to go for the ones he has a closer relationship with, as they should be able to understand it more, and also possibly have disappointed him more. Right, Mount, the player I never wanted and said was crap, is once again injured. Biggest waste of money of the summer. Oh, and by the way, the thumbnails are ace of late. Thank you very much. Solo.
Yeah, have some of that, Solo. Yay, Northern Lights. It's the Borg fighting the Daleks both time.
Stephanie's got jokes today, isn't it?
Yeah, Stephanie's a funny girl.
Yeah.
George, would you like to be employed by Manchester United as the waterboarding administrator? I absolutely bloody love it if Brailsford advertise for a waterboarding expert. it would be amazing. Plot twist is Vaughan went to Guantanamo Bay and his subconscious constructed a story about a yogurt. All right, enough of this. Right, you brought up Mount, who is injured again, and this I found quite interesting. So some of United players prefer to consult a private specialist or ignore their injury, rather opting for treatment from the club's medical team. This is actually, I think, being backed up by what's happened with Malacia, who he went to do his rehabilitation somewhere else and things. Okay. The poor performance of the medical staff is pointed out as another cause of the recurrent injuries this season. Internally, many players blame the excessive injuries due to the training of Erik ten Hag. According to some, he errs by maintaining the same training load throughout the season, even if the accumulated fatigue is much higher in the final stretches. Let's start off with you, Stefan. Talk to me. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think we said an article a while back, something along the lines of we're basically still doing pre-season level training, like really hard running every single week and before matches when we have 3 matches a week, which I'm sure is not helping with the injury load. But I think one thing that is a big concern is how many players we've had this season, right when they've come back from an injury, immediately get re-injured. And it's not just 1 or 2, it's been many. Wan-Bissaka was one you've pointed out before. Luke Shaw has been another. We've seen Mount injured, re-injured, injured, re-injured. Rashford the same, has suffered through it. Casemiro's been injured at times this season. Varane, Lindelof, Maguire. I mean, even like Bruno Fernandes has never missed a match through injury until this season, and now he's missed 2 in a week probably, considering he won't play against Arsenal. So yeah, maybe you do have to start to look at the methods being put in there, and that's what a lot of the talk and the discourse online is about. But at the same time, we've also had Ten Hag say that they're not doing overly hard training, so I'm not sure if he's aware of what's being said or what's coming out, and he's trying to put that fire out. But it's certainly a massive issue, and like it isn't a surprise when we've had so many injuries that our form has been bad. I think I think was Romano listed it off earlier at 65 different absences throughout the season. So yeah, like that's going to impact your form and the stability of your team and your foundations. But surely, at least some of these cases could have been handled better or managed better by the club from within. So I'm sure that Ten Hag will share an element of the blame of that.
All right. Well, I've actually got to say, please, Stephanie is correct. Please do not try waterboarding at home unless you need to tidy up, and people aren't tidying up because cleanliness is next to godliness. Lucky Singh, him and his friends are doing small sessions. If Ten Hag wants to talk to them, they'd love to come and play. Do the players think that the Man United manager can pause the winter seasonal tilt? Maybe throw in an astronomy lesson in these tactical meetings. Just don't let a Monday teach it. Onana is also a waste of money besides Mount. Well, they should have a mouthful straight after the game. Get all the frustrations out there and then and leave it. Then you can be constructive and smarter the day after. I agree. I didn't know this, but apparently Casemiro went to Brazil regarding his injury. Yeah. And I also read it's the first time he's ever had a muscle injury was at United. Mason Mount, Onana, a degree. Now, George's got an interesting one. Players got eliminated from every competition pretty quickly, apart from the FA Cup. So they've done F all most of the season. I think that's a good point. It's either that or there's something really great going on in that treatment room, and everyone wants to go in there. Okay, so didn't he do the same at Ajax? They didn't have issues as far as I can recall, although I would like to have an extra hard look at that medical department. And we tend to sign players who are recovering from injury when the window is open. Doesn't Ten Hag thoroughly check on the players' fitnesses before there? And Patrick is conflicted about the horrendous amount of injuries. Is it a once-in-a-year 10 freak, or is it the training regime and the poor medical departments? And also, Andrew, can you please stop abusing people on other channels that we know? No, you don't like the guy, but he's not here to defend himself, so it's unfair. And I'd appreciate it if you stopped. Right, the last one. Monday, this is by far the worst, and this is a sackable offence for me. Like, this is ridiculous. So, before the match against Everton, March the 9th, Ten Hag spent long hours explaining to the team that Everton would play at Old Trafford with a low block without pressing high up the pitch. The game started, and we saw the exact opposite. Everton overwhelmed United's defence from the first second. They created 4 good chances in the first 15 minutes by this high press. And afterwards, basically, the source is claiming that the team just lost trust in Ten Hag. And I went back and I looked at what we said about this game on this channel. And both of us, when talked about this, we talked about how Sean Dyche and his pressing game is extremely underrated. He sees pressing as the new passing, and what we expected Everton to come out with a high press before we saw the game. And you also agreed with that. This is utterly ridiculous that Ten Hag has 30 to 40 minute training sessions, tactical sessions, and he didn't understand that Everton were going to press us high up the pitch. I can't see how he survives this if this is true.
If it's true, we don't know. Look, we know how Everton play is clear. What was the score in that game?
3-2. It was 2-2. Yeah, it was the Garnacho 2-1. Sorry, it was the Garnacho penalties.
Okay, that's right. Okay,
yeah,
fair enough. But I just think you got to work on certain things, because during the game, no matter who you are, who you're playing against, there's going to be phases of the game where you're going to be dealing with a low block or other sides of the game. So you need to learn to manage situations, and it's not just that. Right, you might have spent hours explaining what's going to happen, but doesn't mean when it doesn't happen that you guys are looking at the bench saying, "Oh, look, but you told us this. We can't do it now. We go now to change." There's different phases of games. There's 25 minutes you might be under pressure. 25 minutes you're going to have a lot on the ball. This is how football is. What's wrong with these players? Once again, I don't know. I don't know. I know people have an agenda. They feel personal thing about certain people, but I just feel this is really unfair to say you know, what this person's saying here. It's just whining. After, you know, each slide, it's just a whining little bitch again. I'm just gonna say it, and I just think it's out of order that someone come out and people would take this serious and not realize actually there's no substance to what this person's saying. This person's probably not playing, probably not performing, and probably just moaning to someone, maybe his girlfriend or someone that's getting back to somebody, saying, "Oh, it's not my fault. I'm a superstar, but it's never my fault why this is not happening."
Right, yeah, but let's
Half-time, sorry, you've been around dressing rooms so many times. You can't tell me there's players out there that are not accountable for not performing and always put the finger of blame on someone else.
Obviously,
yeah. So
of
you know
course.
this,
but that's not the point. That's not the point we're making here.
Yeah, but you're looking for. So sorry. I'm really sorry, man. I'm being. I just want to make.
It's all right. Yeah.
I do apologize, bro.
Don't worry.
So you're looking for cracks in somebody. This is bullying, in my opinion. This is like saying, right, I'm going to target this person because they're making me look bad or my reputation looking bad. So I'm going to look for cracks in this person. And all you've got is to say one game out of 40 or plus games that he gave us the wrong tactics and surprise, everything came out and scared us with something else, you know? Or you're going to say, oh, the training's too hard. Listen to break it down. Listen, actually, it's there in your face. What is this person actually saying? It's not enough. It's not enough to say this is a bad manager or whatever. You're a bad player. When one finger points at you, no, but when one finger points at you, three are looking at yourself, pointing at yourself. Or you see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I just think this. I'm trying to look at this, read this very carefully. Okay, what's being said here? And every single time, it's a whiny little biatch.
Well, I mean, what I see from these quotes is I think that earlier on, Andrew talked about a narrative, and I've sort of put them in an order that I think adds to the narrative, where what we've seen is we've talked about how the players don't like the preparation off the pitch. They don't like the long training sessions, tactical drilling. They don't like the preparation on the pitch by having to work so hard, not getting recovery days, like not having the training sort of tailored to suit them going into the end of the season. And then this example of what happens on the pitch is saying everything is wrong. The preparation, everything, the game plans, everything is wrong. And this is a game where you can go and look at the highlights. You can see it that United were completely ill prepared for the start that Everton has, and we've seen all season after scoring a goal and at the beginning of the second half, the team is never prepared or set up properly to deal with anything. That's why we concede so many goals. And what I find ridiculous about this, Amonde, is that we watched that Dyche interview about 2 years ago, where he talks about the importance of pressing and things like that. And we've actually talked about the Dyche press a few times on this channel, like in a sort of humorous way, but Everton are actually pretty good at it. And they do press teams more than you would think. And I am stunned that the team set up all week expecting Everton not to come out of the traps and go at us, because what you also have to remember is this was the first game that they had after their points deduction. And at that point, they had to go out and get the points. And I think that if I were a player in this team and we'd done all week about getting men behind the ball, supporting, stretching the team and so on, like you have to have a +1 in your defense, right? There's always got to be one extra person than an attacker so that you can get out. United weren't set up for it at all, and it's what they've been trained on all week. And although I agree with you, there's a lot of bitching and there's a lot of whining and stuff. If I were in that team and that happened to us, I'd be taken aback, and I'd want the manager to be accountable, not just the players for this. And that's kind of how I kind of see it. So do you want to come back at me, or should we let Stefan, our guest, have a word?
I'm not going to come back here. I just want to say I respect you. I respect your views. I respect everyone's views on this. We just have to look at this information, decide for it ourselves. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying you're wrong. This is all speculation, okay? I've given my view on it. I think whoever's moaning is really weak. And we could look at it. There's a lot of views. I'm reading the comments. People have different opinions. It's good. This is what we're here for.
Yeah, I do agree with you on quite a lot of stuff about how I do think that this is weak and this is complaining and this is a player throwing someone under the bus. Like they know exactly what they're doing, feeding this to a journalist. It's disgusting, and a player like that should never be at a football club. We're not a soap opera. Like all this stuff happens at football clubs up and down the country. Like there'll be players at Brighton that are absolutely livid about the way they play and who plays and so on. But this is disgusting to have it here. Stefan, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what you just said there. This slide in particular feels like a hit piece, like it's character assassination. It's that's really gunning for the manager at a time where his credentials and his ability to lead the team is being questioned. That's really going to be damaging for him within a lot of circles. But I guess if you dig into the substance of it, we were underprepared in that match, and let's talk hypothetically. If that is true, that's the way we thought Everton were going to come out, then that was a very naive view of how Everton's been playing all season. I mean, that was right after their point deduction. Those players had a fire lit underneath them anyway. They needed points. They were fighting relegation at the time. They're a hard-working team. They're an honest team. They might not be the highest quality, but they all go out there and put a shift in, and they all will do exactly what Dyche tells them to do. And we've seen that coach's voice video a couple of years ago, and it was Dyche even talking about his Burnley team, about the importance of pressing and how it was becoming really important to his overall game. So on one hand, if you look at it from the kind of narrative that's been put through this story, if you're looking at players, you're saying he drags us in for these long, monotonous lectures and video sessions and tape analysis, and then we train all week and we work really hard, and then it gets to match day, and then the exact opposite of what he tells us is going to happens, then you probably do lose an element of trust. And I think it's an interesting point that you do make about how we start each half. The start of the first half, start of the second half, it's usually quite poor. We normally concede a lot of chances in the first 10, 15 minutes of matches. We can, and especially after halftime as well, those seem to be the danger zones for us conceding goals. And maybe it is a case that if the tactics are wrong, it takes a while for the players to feel their way into the match and where they can get joy out of it. But I don't know. It just feels like a really damaging piece. That information in particular has to have come within the dressing room. It cannot have come from anywhere else. So that's a direct feed into our dressing room, which is embarrassing, and it shouldn't be happening at any football club, let alone Manchester United. So, it's going to turn fans against the players even more. It's not, if he ever put this out there thinking that this is going to be a piece that will maybe win fan sympathy, and the fans will say the players are trying their best, but Ten Hag's really setting them out like an idiot, like he doesn't know what he's doing with them, then that's not going to succeed either. But it's just frustrating because we've seen these articles put out here time and time again. If you go back to the Rangnick era, I'm sure they're out there. I know they're out there every week under Ollie. It was the same under Mourinho. It was the same under Van Gaal. Same under David Moyes. These articles are nothing new. These types of stories are nothing new. And it's like you said, we are the biggest club in England, and I think it was like Martin Samuel or someone 10 years ago, maybe on Sky Sports, said, if you fill your newspaper full of Man United content, you'll never go hungry. And I do feel like that definitely adds into it.
You love your quotes. Have you got them little quotes on your wall behind the screen? Because I love how you can draw out quotes. You've done one from Ancelotti. Yeah, the one Ancelotti one you done there. I was like, that's impressive. And now you just draw one from Martin Samuel from 10 years ago. Brilliant.
Yeah, I like quotes. Maybe I'm making it up in my head and it sounds really good. That's
Andrew or someone in the comments
say it convincingly.
Find out. Well done.
Say it with definitely say it with conviction, and no one will question it. That's it.
All right. Should we look at the comments before we finish up? Because I've just seen the time. God, we've done a marathon tonight. Thank you so much, Stefan.
Good content, though, and fair play to you, Bath Time, because you've really sort of pushed our buttons and really made us sort of dig into this and really break it down. At first, I was a bit upset, thinking, "Oh God!" But when we've really looked at it, analysed it, and done a Ten Hag session on it for like not half an hour, 40 minutes, but an hour and 40 minutes, I think it's been a positive for me.
I did tell you before the show started not to get upset with these quotes, but they were an absolute hit piece. And I think that, I think Stefan's actually right that this is just like a feeding frenzy for social media. Whoever's put this out knows that there is a huge Ten Hag out movement.
Yes,
I sort of, if I was in the club, Monday, if you were in the dressing room, you found out who this was, what would you do to them? Handshake?
Probably not. Probably privately say to them, "Look, man, you need to fix up. You need to stop this. We can't have leaks in the club. I know it's you. Just stop that, man. Let's respect the manager. Let's, at least just follow this. And at the end of the season, let the board make up their mind. But it's, we've got to change the culture around here. Yeah. And when you got cliques like that, there's obviously a clique of players that. The key word for me when you mentioned earlier is conditioning. This thing about the training too much is about conditioning. You want to train harder to be conditioned to handle all of this. If you're getting injured all the time or breaking down, it suggests to me that you haven't, you're separating the boys from the men here. You haven't got the goods to maintain a professional, be a professional athlete at this sort of high level. I think you should push them. This is why athletes are vomiting during their winter training. Putting it in. Even the great Usain Bolt, you should see some of the training he used to do in Jamaica in the winter to prepare for the summer. He was vomiting, sick. He was tired days, didn't want to get out of his bed and go out there and do it. But this is all hard work pays off. And I'm happy that the manager overall is pushing hard work out there, whether it's with the data analysis or whether it's with the training. And that's something that you cannot take away from the man.
All right. Sorry, I've just seen some private messages. Stefan's really cold. I hope you're warming up there, Stefan.
No, I'm good.
I would waterboard them on Monday. Like a good one, I think 90 seconds of waterboard then if I found out who this was. Right. Let's start. Let's see what our gremlins are saying. George says that he agrees with the Monday, but I'm not sure what he agrees with.
A long time ago, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Tyrone is saying the Man United players are the best paid players in the Premier League, and that's why we're struggling. Mount been given an amazing contract, and the number 7 jersey without earning it is one example. I completely agree. I don't think anyone should have that shirt until they've earned it. Right. Smart players would go against the manager and change up the plan based on what they've talked about in those meetings, if they paid attention to it. I agree with this, where I think that players are who have to solve the problem on the pitch. Like, you don't all just run over and ask the manager what to do. Like, you've got to get inside or get outside or go and support someone or something. But at the same time, I don't think Ten Hag, Arteta, Pep, I don't think they like their players having agency on the pitch. I'm not sure. But Patrick is saying that every coach since Sir Alex Ferguson sends analysts to scout for about 3 to 4 matches beforehand, which means they came back to Erik Ten Hag with info on Everton. And did he totally ignore it? Or maybe that this is our scouts are rubbish.
Good point, Patrick.
Yeah. Unfortunately, all our players and the manager are fantastic at deflecting. Well, apart from Onana. But yeah, it does appear to be that at the moment it's the blame game at United, which is what Stephanie is saying. The mainstream media hated Eric from the beginning. They want a British manager in charge of United, someone like Southgate.
They would rip him to shreds.
Sorry?
If Southgate was manager and was doing poorly, they'd rip him to shreds. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who the Manchester United manager is. It doesn't matter where they're from, who they are. They're going to get torn apart if they don't produce on the pitch. It's nothing to do with sort of parochial journalists only wanting British people. Every time the reports come out, it's always players complaining. It's getting incredibly boring. Yeah. Oh, look, I'm right for once. That's a very, very rare one. Simon's looking forward to the Euros. Put this season out of my mind. I'm looking forward to the Euros as well. Okay. What is Steve McLaren doing as assistant manager? He was hired to provide support to Ten Hag. Perhaps he needs to replace. What value does he add? Steve McLaren, in my mind, is one of the great coaches that this country has produced in the last 20 years. I think that just because he's old, people kind of like do him down and stuff, but he's managed abroad and won leagues. He was part of like our backroom staff for a long time. He's managed at international level. I think he's an extremely good person to have around the club, Stefan.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't dispute that there, and we know that he won when Ten Hag came, because something he was pretty adamant about was having a link to the club and someone who had some kind of a link to Dutch football as well. I think a lot of people thought at the time it might have been Van Nistelrooy or Jaap Stam, but I mean, he was Ten Hag was assistant to Steve McLaren at some point, or he was a coach under him at one point, and yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with Steve McLaren being here. We can't really talk too much about the individual qualities of coaches because we don't know what they bring or what they're doing. Because I remember a lot of people saying Kieran McKenna had no idea what he was doing as a coach, and back-to-back promotions with Ipswich. So I don't think we can really judge too much on what's going on behind the scenes with it.
Good point.
I do think we can talk about the set piece coach, though. Like, we're useless at set pieces. We've got to get better. All right, imagine being paid 300k a week and having to actually work hard for it. Eric Ten Hag should be ashamed of asking so much of these players. Bartham, you're making the argument for Monday. There's no way Ten Hag did not prepare. I didn't say that he didn't prepare. I said he prepared incorrectly. All right, Andrew's saying that this isn't a player. Like, whoever's leaked this, it's not a player. It's an agent. Regardless, it's still coming from a player. I think that, do we all agree on that? That this has to be a direct source from the dressing room?
Yeah, it has to be. Nobody else would have direct feed into what they're doing for individual match preparation, stuff like that. Kind of giving it away, surely.
A girlfriend, a brother?
Yeah, I was thinking a girlfriend.
Do you think so? Do you think they're saying, like, you know, the toffees, low block, pressing high up the pitch?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, how many wives and girlfriends would be going to the press talking about lack of rest defenses and stuff? You know, I don't know. Maybe
we're being a bit unfair there, Stefan.
Maybe I am.
Patrick is saying, do you recall this season the reports that there was surprise that ETH gave the players 2 days off after a match? I have to agree with Amonde. I think there's loads of moaning and whinging in this. Cake there is players out.
Yeah.
Which Tyrone is sick and tired of these leaks. This is disgusting. Vaughan, is the reason that United get the leaks and not Brighton because no newspaper cares enough to get a Brighton player's opinions compared to United? Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think that, like, if someone leaked everything that happened, I don't know, Preston North End, I think you'd find that it would get into the papers because we rarely sort of see this kind of access to a dressing room. Like, but you know, if there's like All or Nothing, that TV show, the bit everyone wants to see is the halftime team talk. Doesn't matter who it is. Like, people want to get that access to football that they normally don't get. Players shouldn't be airing their dirty washing in public, sackable offence. Does anyone disagree with that?
Don't disagree. No, they shouldn't do that.
It's genuinely, this is one of the most disrespectful things you can do to a football club, is reveal what's going on in the inside. It's appalling. Yeah. Andrew is still saying he doesn't think that this comes directly from a player. How are Ineos going to tackle these leaks? We need to finally get to the bottom of who's leaking to the press. I've had enough. And it's just another thing for Brailsford, Ratcliffe, Omar, Blanc to sort out, isn't it? I mean, they've been there a couple of weeks and they're already sick of the players as we are. Andrew's saying this is too well. This is a too well considered hit piece to be from a player. I mean, I think the journalist has crafted it a bit as well. Like, he knows what he's doing with the information he's got. Emma is saying it's not even anything you can properly complain about. Imagine saying this to a top player or someone who's worked all their life to only play in League Two. Like, come on, say he hit you or something. I completely disagree, Emma. The stuff about, like, getting injuries because of being overtrained is something that anyone from any football club would be aghast at, because it's your body and it's how you provide for your family and things. Like it's ridiculous. I'm not buying Anthony is against Ten Hag. Why would he turn against the man who gave him his move to United? Stefan, why do we think that this is Anthony?
I mean, I think you got a 50-50 really with it. I feel like it's either Anthony or Casemiro. And I know that somebody mentioned earlier about Dalot or Bruno being Portuguese speakers. I can't see it being Bruno. And I feel like if it was a Portuguese player, it would have came out in Portuguese press. I mean, you could make the argument that maybe it is Casemiro, since this is probably the first time in 10 plus years he would have been left out of a national team squad. Like, I'm sure that's bound to sting, but I would imagine at this point of his career, he's probably more professional than to run to the press with that sort of story. And I just feel like with Anthony, there's been frustration boiling over in the last couple of weeks. You see him getting agitated on the pitch a lot more as well. And there's already rumors and a lot of people saying that Anthony is feeding information to certain groups and online channels and stuff for positive spin and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like people are just trying to deduce it down. And if it's one or the other, Anthony or Casemiro, they're just saying it's probably Anthony.
Yeah, I think Anthony's younger as well. You can imagine, just look at his personality. I think Casemiro's he's proper pros. He's won stuff. He's been at the big club at Real Madrid. I think if you caught Anthony like at a golf course or at a soccer club or something, Brazilian
he'd be in the bunker.
Yeah, or caught him in the toilet, sit in the Brazilian restaurant or something, and started going, hey, Mamma Mia, what's going on with thing? And he'd this effing this Gringo, Greco, or whatever. I don't even know. I can't do
Gringo.
Gringo. What's Gringo again?
It's like a derogatory term for a Westerner in Latin America.
Well, they're actually talking about Ten Hag then. That egghead Gringo, he doesn't play me or whatever. Or I can imagine Anthony being in a strip club and the girl saying, I haven't seen you play lately. What's going on? And then it being like that Gringo, egghead Gringo talk and saying, he's no good. Anyone in Manchester all around would be willing to push his button to say, what's going on? Why aren't you playing? Or whatever, just to get anything. And it could be sold. So we just don't know. I'm speculating now and I'm just taking it somewhere stupid. But you just don't know how this is getting out. But I would suspect that it's more likely to be Anthony. I was 50-50, but I think maybe Anthony is a bit younger, a bit angrier. And if you pushed his button and said, you're superstar, £70 million, why aren't you playing games? You're getting pelters here, left, right, and centre. It's not me, it's that Gringo.
I mean, I just remember back to that footage I saw against Liverpool of Anthony running around telling everyone that he was going to be playing left back and things, and like his behaviour at the weekend when he was subbed off and was just shouting, like he shouted at Rasmus during the match, and it went on for a long time. Just, I don't know, I think he's got a really bad attitude. And Stefan sent me a picture today of him getting a tattoo of himself on his back, which... do people tattoo themselves onto themselves? It seems rather strange to me. All right, we've got so many comments. So I'm just going to do the ones I've highlighted and call it a night. I want
to big up to Amateur Football. I don't know if that's Dr. Gaspire or Tabrice, but either way, two really solid, proper football people, and enough respect to both of you.
All right, so that's where we were. If Onana was a bank, for instance, he would be closed down. The savings he's making are terrible. You have to bail him out.
Well, Simon.
Must be a Dutch thing. LVG was a bit like that. Too many details. I like details, though. They're important. It's just how they're conveyed to people. Nothing mentioned has not already been mentioned before. How do we know it's coming from the dressing room? I would say the specificity of that Everton game is how I think we know it's coming from the dressing room. George, on the other hand, likes the leaks. They're the most entertaining thing the team's put out all season. Sadly, some fans will be on the players' side after this. Guarantee it. The ones who spend all their time cussing the manager week in, week out. I've got to say, it's a fabulous day for content when there's a leak. It seems the unique pressure of playing for Manchester United and not performing or getting results brings out the worst. Players complained about Moyes, Van Gaal, Jose, Ollie, Ragnick, now Heath. Common denominator here, it's the players. Emma is saying, if it's an agent, then it could be any player whose agent speaks Portuguese. Doesn't have to be a Portuguese or Brazilian player. That's correct. Like, that's why I brought up Lindelof, because he played in Portugal, didn't he? And I think he speaks Portuguese. So, you know, and you never know. It might be someone telling someone like Matic, who's like no longer at the club, but was popular there, and he's passed it on, as it were. But regardless of who it is, it's such a deliberate hit piece like that. I think that's the key to focus on. Right, DK Wilson. It wouldn't be the first time some players have decided screw him and went out in the opposite. Everything I'm hearing, I've seen from teams doing poorly. Yeah. And saying our management is just like a conveyor belt. Next, please. Can we have the one with the hair too?
Read it all. It's funny.
I'm waiting for you to stop this Dr. Hibbert behaviour. It's bad enough looking at the Glazers. Looks like 3 boiled eggs if they all stood next to each other. Like the players, soft boiled, I hope. I swear, guys, as a former sports journalist, if a player came to me with this, the story would not be written. I suspect that's why you're a former sports journalist, DK Wilson. Anyone unable to handle Ten Hag's training should be shown the door. But that's not a diss at you, DK Wilson.
It's a joke. It's
a joke.
Yeah, come on.
Lucky Singh trained 2 sessions, 20 minutes each, finger, run. Thank you, Lucky Singh. On Monday, what you just described in Jamaica, this about Usain Bolt, happens every day in pre-season from high school to the pros in US football.
Okay.
Ten Hag's getting his P45 in 10 days. During his time, we finished 3rd, got Champions League football and got 1 trophy. Something positive to go on his CV and something to remember him by. And then Stevie Wonder apparently is employed as a scout. Let's remember in the beginning of Ten Hag, they liked training. And out of all people, Luke Shaw said the training was hard, but it was good. They can't turn around now and say, oh, no, it's too hard.
You got them.
Yeah. Patrick is saying this might sound morally idealistic, but journalists should be strong to ask a leaker to sort their life out after they first start whinging, or have the guts to come and talk to Piers Morgan. All right. Every single person at the club has to take the blame for the shit show we've put on this season, including McLaren. Agreed. Mm-hmm. By the way, I saw McLaren take his glasses off in one match, so he couldn't see what was going on. Yeah, and then Tyrone is saying spot on about McLaren and a very good point about McKenna.
Yeah, it was a good point.
Is the brother comment because of Garnacho's one being so vocal? Yes, it is, George. I mean, he's a 16-year-old or something, but he talks too much. But I mean, he's a child. What can you do? We keep blaming managers, back staff. We have the same issues again and again, and a lot of the same players. We've got Tobrice or Dr. Ket Spire. Well, big up to both of them. Hope you're doing well.
Top guys.
And we've got 29 likes. And do you know what? There are so many comments, but I am so tired that we're just going to do one more. And that was, I think Luke Shaw was referring to a new burger at McDonald's, which is quite chewy, but he likes it. What?
You know, can I say, like, I've had a lot of chuckles tonight. Guys in the comments, top draw. Maybe the sun's brought out a lot of happiness and laughter and joy. And we tackled that subject. We're still inconclusive. We still don't know what's going on, but I really enjoyed it. Well done.
I know. I had a conversation with Solo today where he told me we needed to do shorter shows. So shout out to 2 hours and 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think, wow. Thank you so much. It's completely unnecessary, but absolutely appreciated. Heartbroken with United, but had some laughs tonight. Thank you for that, lads. That is so kind, Kate Cadet. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And we've also got Andrew saying happy Friday. Remember, everyone, to check for the Northern Lights. This has been a top episode with some of the best comments. Great show, everyone.
Wow.
Looking forward to the next stream, guys. Have a good night and a good weekend. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that everyone's enjoyed it, as I felt that yesterday by not doing an Arsenal preview, I let everyone down. So I feel good now that we've put out some content that everyone has enjoyed. And a key part of that has been my friend and yours, Stefan.
Where can we find
Thanks very much. It's good. No, honestly, I love being on with you guys. Always is a really good show. You can find me just here, United Philosophy. On here, been pretty inactive this week with being sick, but hopefully back to the grind now. Hopefully back to regular content, and yeah, hopefully we're gonna have a pretty decent performance on Sunday. But I'm not holding my breath on it. But thanks as always for having me on, guys. Much appreciated.
You're part
You did a watch
of
along.
part of the furniture, mate. Don't worry about that. Always here. Always welcome. Big up to Stefan. United Philosophy. If you're part of the United Agenda, make sure you subscribe to my brother's podcast as well. United Philosophy. Big up, Stefan.
Yeah, you're on about 7 o'clock, are you, Stefan?
Yeah, normally 7 o'clock. So no excuse. You can catch both shows on the same night.
And you're doing a watch along?
Possibly not for this one, but I'll definitely do one for Newcastle midweek, and then we'll do Brighton. But I don't think there'll be one Sunday.
Wicked. All right, a Monday. Have you got anything to tell us before we go?
Yeah, just want everyone to have a lovely weekend. The weather's nice, isn't it? It's great. It brings out a lot of joy in people. Get some sunshine, get some vitamin D. And lastly, I just want to say, obviously, there's someone missing here. We miss you, Mr. B. And hopefully you're getting yourself well and you'll be back with us very soon. So you're in our hearts and prayers. Mr. B, we love you. See you soon, my brother.
Yes, exactly. Like, shout out to Mr. B and shout out to everyone watching. Thank you so much for spending over 2 hours with us. And we're looking forward to seeing you all on Sunday. So good night.